first thing I want to talk about is scope. A lot of beginners have this problem, like us too. When we started our game, we thought, oh, let's make a crazy big ass RPG and like a bunch of features, and it was horrible. So I want to talk about how to kill your baby. So we had this game. We were working on it for like I think 6 months, and we won the first award like in a competition, and we were proud of it. And then next competition, we're like, oh, let's add more stuff, and like let's add mini games, more bosses, and multiplayer. You know, it was just we couldn't finish it. I thought we couldn't finish it in 3 months because that's when that's the deadline for the IEEE Game State competition. And
You guys know about IEEE?
you guys should join it if you guys. Yeah, it's a competition against all colleges. And if you win, you get like we won and we got free tickets to GDC. So you guys should totally join.
Definitely worth it.
That's
good.
good.
Yeah.
You get to show your skills, people get to play your game, and you get to see how you compare to other colleges.
Yeah.
And it looks fantastic on your portfolio and resume.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And,
Kind of like how good Foglands was.
Yeah.
so yeah, just notice and be aware of how big your game can be, and if this is your first game, definitely try to scale it back to 1 or 2 mechanics. So our game was gigantic, and then what I want to say is that just make it simple first, and even cut it even down even more.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 months before the competition ended, our deadline, we decided to scrap our game, our baby, killed it, and we made a new game. And we're gonna make an even simpler game. We called it Battle on the Bridge. To make this easier on us, we took the old assets, like all the 3D models and art we took from the old game, and we just attached it to our new mechanics. So what we thought about, even this new game, we thought, oh, let's do counters and blocks and throws and all these other crazy moves. I'm like, we're not gonna be a Super Smash Bros. We can't do the timing. We don't know how to make that kind of game. And it'll take us so many more months to like research. So we had to cut that down even more and do throw and move. That's it. And can we do that? That's it. Can we make that fun? So yeah, try to make a simple game. If this is your first game. And our game was super simple. You were just a character that you can pick stuff up and you can throw at your character, at your opponents. And that's it. And we saw that people when they were playing, they saw that as fun. And we just kept extending on that one mechanic and also on the worlds. Because every world is a different era. There's Edo, medieval, pirates, western. All of our beta players love the different worlds that we created, so we just kept doing that. And we didn't add any more new mechanics. That's it. And also work with on the strengths of your team. Our team was full of artists, and I was like the only programmer. So I was not gonna make a bunch of new mechanics, but we can totally make a bunch of new art assets. And kind of like Blizzard's creed is gameplay first. Make sure, like let's say if you're a programmer, build your game with just cubes and blocks, and make sure the game is fun just by doing that. Just no art. Don't think about art. Do cubes. And just make sure your mechanic is just solid and fun and tight. And if you're an artist, let's say you're a concept artist, draw out what your game would look like and how it would play. So for this game I was working on, I just drew out the UI. I mean, Miguel drew out the UI. I drew out the tiles and the characters, and so you can kind of see, oh, so this battle is where monsters will come in and you're camping and you get surprised. So anyone who sees this art can see how the game would play or look like. And yeah, and if you're working if you're gonna do a competition, try to just do a small demo. And if you can't finish that small demo, then you can make more levels. We made sure our Edo level, our first level, was a great portrayal of our final game. All the art, all the mechanics were bug free. The art was perfect. It shows what the final game would be. And this is what you call a minimum viable product. And so if you give this to like, let's say Sony, or you give it to another investor, they can play this one demo and imagine what your whole game would look like and maybe fund you. So just to recap, just remember how big your idea is and try to keep it simple. And when you have it simple, make it even more simple. And when you start working on your game, make sure the game is fun first before you start adding more features or content. That's it. That's
Go back.
going back, and this is go.
And I'm Miguel, and I'll be talking about teamwork and task management. I know most of you are not in teams right now. Is anyone planning to make a game team?
Yeah.
You guys currently have a game team, or you guys have?
It's more forming for next semester where we have 2 game teams, 1 2D animation, and 1 cinematic.
So who's currently in a team together? So
I
it's
mean,
you.
sort of. It's more like me and a friend working on a game on and off for the past few months.
Dude, that's how all game
that's
teams
fantastic.
start.
Yeah, that's how they start.
That's also big animation companies.
Is that with you and Max?
Yeah, it's me and Max.
Yes, it is our Max.
Oh, Max Vaughn.
Yep.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, we all went to school together.
Very cool, very cool.
Some of us here are also about to intern on a game as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about teamwork and task management, and it's very important to development and working in like a professional field, because what they care about more is it's more than about your skill. It's like how well they'd actually work with you, if they'd actually enjoy your company. So teamwork and task management, it all boils down to communication. So before we get to communicating, you gotta know who your team is. So people who are in their teams, do you guys actually know like your guys' teams? Strengths and weaknesses?
We pick who's on our team. We have 6 members, and you choose who they're going to be.
Very cool. Yeah, so definitely always list down like what their best skills are and what they actually want to hone in on, like for professional. Like what do they want to achieve? And so yeah, communication is key, especially in game development. It keeps up the momentum while you're developing the games. You gotta post daily on your progress, no matter how small it is. It could be just like a simple art asset, like a new 3D model that you made, and just post it up anywhere. You can use Hangouts, Discord, and it doesn't matter if it's like complete or not. You can ask for critique, and this keeps up the activity. Because have you ever had it when you're in a group project and there's been like no communication for over a week? It almost feels like that project is dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you gotta have that daily, even if it's a small blip, like, oh, this is what I got so far. What do you guys think of it? Or this is the sketch so far. It keeps it up. Right? So make sure everyone knows what everyone is currently on, because a common problem is, especially in a big team, 2 people might end up working on the same asset, and you don't want that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And always discuss everything together with the gameplay and everything. It doesn't matter if you're in the same field or not. Like when it pertains to gameplay and programming, include everybody, include the artists, and that makes everybody feel like it's a cohesive team. And plus, you'll get ideas from like all your members, especially when you're just starting out developing. Another important thing is asset breakdown. So asset breakdown, you gotta list every important asset, every asset really in your game. And it can be down to character models, UI elements, any gameplay mechanics that are gonna be played out. And keep it organized, like either in a spreadsheet or however you feel is the best way. And list them by categories, by 3D models, 2D, animations or anything. And when it comes to naming your files, please stick to a naming convention, because that makes it a lot easier for the programmer especially. Otherwise, it'll just be hard for them to find anything, any of your assets in there. And so what we used was Google spreadsheets. So we organized them by concept, modeling, texturing, animation, and voice sound effect. So since our team was a team of 20 artists, this was more focused on like the artist pipeline, and different people will take on different roles. So we have a legend right here. What we had in progress would be in orange. So like they would have their names put down and they'll say who's currently working on it. When they finish, they make it green. and it just visually makes it. You see the progress of your entire game, like, oh, all my assets are being completed. And yeah, so some of the teamwork tools we use, Google Spreadsheets, Discord. It's good to be in constant communication, even if it's like when you get home late at night for an hour and you're just on Discord and just discussing, even if it's not even about the game, you just be discussing about video games and gameplay in general. And Google Hangouts, good place to post. It will ring up on your phone, and you'll see any posts, updates that people bring up. And I'll bring it over to John.
Switch it up.
What's up, guys?
Yo.
I'm John. So I'm a little bit. I model just like you guys. My passion has always been art. I've been in business for a long time, and I'm kind of an entrepreneur. I have a restaurant right now.
Sweet.
So, but I'm selling it all to pursue the same dream that I think everybody else here is to try to create games and do what you love, right? Your first passion. So everybody here models. Everybody here does concept. So that's the foundation of every game, right? Between mechanics first and art, you create these games that we all love to play. So you guys are a huge part of this. That's what I do. That's what I want to pursue. But it's really important to know the business side of things if you ever attempt to start your own company, right? A lot of the game dev meets and all this stuff, maybe some of you guys have been to, the one thing I get from most of these guys who work at big companies is like, oh man, you guys are living the dream. You're creating games that you want to create, you know? All these guys want to do what you're doing, but the reason they don't is because they're getting paid pretty well to be modeling or, you know, creating mechanics or programming. So I'm telling you what it's like to create a company and to create a game dev company. First thing is creating a company culture, right? So pretty much everywhere you go to, there's a culture, right? Your high school probably was a lot different feeling than your culture here, right? Can you guys, what high school did you go to?
I went to Oak Hills High School in
Okay.
Hesperia, California.
Cool. Was it anything like here?
No, not really. Actually, no, not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do you think that is?
I think everyone here is a little bit, you know, a lot more grown up. It feels very professional when you come in to sit down and work. Your teachers are kind of like bosses, you know?
So it's, from what I'm hearing from you, it starts out with the way people treat each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? I remember in high school, you felt like everybody was watching you. You know, you played games, you felt like people might not like you because you played games. If you played football, you think people might not like you because you played football. If you danced or whatever you did, you felt like as being watched. That's all part of high school culture, right? College culture is different. College culture is more open-minded. You start meeting people, like-minded people, more of them, and in a professional setting. That's what company culture is. So the way you treat people in your company, the kind of people you gather to create your company is your company culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which way do you guys communicate, all right? What kind of norms are shared by individuals, right? Do you guys play the same games? Do you like the same food? You know, all that stuff brings you together, but your individual things are what makes your company unique, right? If you're a great modeler and you can do awesome humans, right? You just do great organic creatures, all this stuff. Do you think in a small dev company you're going to need another guy who does the exact same thing you do? Most likely not, right? Maybe you guys want somebody else who is a hard surface modeler, right? Maybe somebody who's an awesome texture. Maybe somebody who can actually program, right? So rules for getting along, next thing. So creating your credo, okay? All big companies create what is their credo, what is the rules that they live by. And the one that we constantly go to all the time, because it's so out there, is Blizzard Activities, right? So these are their 8 core values, so their credo. Gameplay first, okay? What they focus on first is that the very, very fundamental of the game is fun. That even if it's just running and smacking things, it's fun, right? One guy told me it should be as easy as this. If you have just a sphere running around and doing whatever the mechanics are in your game, if that's fun, then you can build from that, right? Great art, great modeling, great storyline, all that will add to that. But the fundamentals have to be fun, okay? Committing to quality. If you're gonna do something, do the best you can, because everything you put out there now stays out there forever. You know, any comment you say, any art you put out, it's out there for pretty much forever. So this, unfortunately, what we're getting into, and most businesses are based on the opinions of others, right? Are based on what people think. Art can be personal and it can, you know, make you feel a certain way, but if you can't resonate that into everybody else, then it's just your art, right? It's not art for everybody, and it won't be out there, and it won't get spread, and on and on and on. Okay? Play nice, play fair. This is pretty self-explanatory. You know, be good to each other. Part of your credo should always be a team. You're there for each other. Without the person next to you, you're not going anywhere. All right? Embracing your inner geek.
Mhm.
This is awesome that they do this at Blizzard. Did you go on the tour with us?
No,
Okay.
but I've been there.
You've been?
I've been, yeah.
Did you hear them say that? The embracing your inner geek?
Oh yeah, so Steven definitely says that all the time.
It's awesome. So what these guys do is when they're looking for the next position, they ask these people, what are you passionate about? You know, this guy gave the example, this guy loves comics. So when he came in for his interview, he brought a stack of comics that he likes to read. So they give you time to really embrace that, to go into their library and read some comic books, get fresh ideas, you know. The art is stressful because you run out of ideas, or sometimes you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. Embracing your inner geek, really doing what you like, helps you open up. You know, it helps you create new things or take something and make it better, right? So don't be afraid of the things you love. Keep doing it. Every voice matters. So, the cool thing about a big company like Blizzard that has 3-4 offices around the world and thousands of employees is that they really take the time to listen to everybody selectively, obviously. So when you're in a team, especially a small team where the voices are louder because there's only a few people, make sure you're listening and make sure you're being open-minded. The worst thing you can do is think that you know it all, okay? Because you stop learning at that point, all right? Think globally. So you can this is kind of a big AAA motto, right? For small dev teams, thinking globally is kind of hard because you'd love to have an idea that reaches the whole world. And sometimes you'll be lucky enough that you will. But when you're doing a small game team like we are, really all you have to think about is reaching a few people and making sure that they're having fun. Because that grows, right? And the more that grows, then you can start thinking on bigger, broader scales. So learn and grow, and lead with responsibility. Those are both self-explanatory, so I'm gonna move on. All right, so this is my 4 rules to starting an indie dev company. All right, step number 1, keep it simple, keep it small. Does anybody know what this is?
That's the Atari landfill.
That's the Atari landfill. So for a long time, people thought that this was just a myth. And then Atari actually gave, well, not Atari, but the companies that were split up, that used to be Atari, gave them the rights to go out and actually excavate, right? And the reason I put this out there is because of this game right here.
Man, what a legend.
Yeah. You guys know who that is? So they spent $25 million on just buying the publishing rights to make the game, right? Then they spent $500 million making a game that only sold 1.5 million copies when they had printed 5 million. That's a lot of money lost, right? For a game that sucked. Have any of you had the pleasure of playing it?
I've seen games like
I'd like to if I could.
I'm gonna tell you, the only thing that is fun about playing that game is knowing the story. Right? So
It doesn't look any much worse than the Superman game for Atari,
Oh.
but like that one doesn't get a legendary story connected
at
to
least
it.
because why?
Right.
Because they didn't spend half a billion dollars.
Exactly.
You know, they made this game in
82 or 83, I think.
something when the movie came out, that was
82. I
82.
think. Yeah.
So 82, great memory. So in 82, $500 million, that's like $1.3 billion today.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much it's inflated. That's a lot of money.
It's insane.
That
man.
basically defunded the biggest game company in the world. So if you're starting a small game team, think realistically. You know, think about the fundamentals of your game and think about budget. You know, a lot of people, you know, we all have our jobs on the side, right? We take our free time to make these games, hoping that we're gonna have fun doing it and hoping that somebody else sees that, right? But if we go out and spend, you know, my mortgage on the games we're making, and it's not successful, you might find me buried in a ditch out in New Mexico.
Oh no.
So, you know, so you gotta be really smart about that, okay? Marketing and sales. This is kind of the stuff that, like, none of us got into making games or doing games because we wanted to do marketing or sales. But it's important to know a little bit of business, a little bit of everything if you want to start your own thing. Okay? Why? Because in order to get your game out there, you need to be a pretty good marketer. You need to be able to get your game in front of people, right? That takes a skill that you can learn here or online or anywhere, or find somebody on your team who likes that stuff and can do it. If you want to continue making games, you have to figure out a way how to make money, right? That's just the unfortunate truth about anything. Great artists who don't make money aren't artists for a long time. Because you need money to live, you need money to eat. You know, you need money to buy games. So, to do the things you love, you need to have some money. In order to keep things moving forward, you need a market and PR. Step 3, budgeting. You guys know this game? Anybody know?
Did that one get made?
So this game was another budgeting nightmare, but unlike E.T., this game never got released.
Yeah, I heard of that one.
Okay, so this was Daredevil. Let me redo the premise of this game. So Daredevil was a third-person action adventure video game based on the Marvel comic book character Daredevil, obviously. This came out when that horrible Ben Affleck movie came out too. It was developed by 500 Foot, and it would have been published by Encore. So 500 Feet was the developer. They were based out of Nevada. And Encore was the publisher. So the game was later canceled in 2004 because Navarro chairman and Eric Paulson said that their management decision really all came down to budgeting. So they had a budget for $4.3 million, and they were already up in that first year to 5.6. So if you go back and actually look at the guys who were developing this game, this was a development nightmare. Why? Because they had a bad team, they had bad management. So this was in Nevada, which is not a good place to have a game development because there's just too much out there to distract you. So guys were coming in to work after a whole night of doing drugs, after gambling, so they're just like spending tons of money for these guys, and the management wasn't strong enough to say, you know what, like we got to get these guys out of here, right? So what happens? Their budget gets overboard. Boom. This game is going to be revolutionary. Let me show you. I wanted to show you guys.
I heard this one.
Do we get Wi-Fi in here?
Should, yeah.
I'll log in for you.
So this game is awesome because in 2004, it was not open world, but it had something like 15 different like city settings, right? And it was right before Spider-Man, and it was the first time a player could swing from building to building, and he could grind, and it was that first open world feel, sort of like the first Grand Theft Auto, but Spider-Man mixed. Right? So everybody was super excited. I remember, I'm a big comic book guy. I remember this game was coming out. I was like incredibly excited. When it got shut down, I mean, I don't know how many people got online. In 2004, the internet was a little bit different. YouTube wasn't as big. But yeah. But you would just talk to people online, and you would get all this stuff. Like they would release the small footage of, and the game just looked crazy. Like people almost got together to fund the game, which was revolutionary at its time. Same thing happened with Mega Man Universe. Now you're a big Mega Man Universe guy. So
We're good, Johnny Hook.
yeah, go ahead. Check out this game, guys. You got to remember this is 2004.
Does laptop have audio or?
I don't think the audio is that important. It's really the gameplay. So obviously you're punching and kicking people, but this, look at the grinding with the feet. Look at the jumping between buildings, the free world. Watch this mechanic here. Not the punch, this. That was brand new. Right?
So cool.
Can you imagine? I was 18 years old, and for them to take this away from me because of this drug taking, like, I'm like, Vegas. But that's, I mean, look at that. All these mechanics, I mean, back in the day, this was crazy. But these mechanics, the good thing that they got out of this is they sold a lot of these mechanics to other companies, right? Because they were so revolutionary.
Is that Black Bolt?
Yeah, a lot of the mechanics from this I recognize in other
I think
games.
it's
Exactly. Even the fighting stuff,
That's Ripples.
they use a lot in the original Grand Theft Auto. You see the sound stuff, that was brand new.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wow.
even if you have this amazing game with an amazing idea, with a popular character, if you are not budgeting correctly, it's not going to come out. Right?
They gotta try this again. Daredevil's cool again.
I know. It'd be, but the thing is,
Give it to a better developer,
it'd
yeah.
have to be like, what can they come up with next? Like, what can you do now that's new? All this stuff is old now. In 2004, that was brand new. This stuff. You know?
I'd still play it.
All right, and my last step, my last but my first recommendation. Hoa told you the same thing. Why we so we created first. You guys created the first Finite Tower together.
Yep.
And it was really fun. It was a maze. You had to pull levers, and it was really a maze-based game. What we tried to do next was sort of a fighting game, an action game, and we, instead of focusing on the mechanics, what we did was we just kept adding new things, right? So later on, when we started playing it, we were like, dude, this is such a boring game. You know, we created it and it wasn't fun. So we had all this stuff, but it wasn't fun to play. So we would have had to go and redo the mechanics. And once you redo the mechanics, you build your levels around those mechanics. So we would have to rebuild the worlds as well, right? So what we did is we just abandoned that. And we did what Hoa said. He took just the chicken, and he had the chicken, which the chicken was an asset that we had in the game.
Scarecrow.
Right. And the chicken just started throwing stuff, and that was fun. Right? So we built a game on that. You guys remember the movie? Somebody named the movie. Something About Mary.
It's something about Mary.
There's something about Mary.
No, not Something About Mary. Oh God, the Mila Kunis. They're in Hawaii. His wife's an actress.
I don't know what this is.
I don't watch a lot of rom-coms.
Forgetting about certain.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That's
Oh.
Who's seen that movie?
I heard.
Okay, in that movie, there's a part where this guy's, he's trying to get over this girl, and so he goes to Hawaii, and she ends up being there with a new boyfriend, and there's a scene where he's trying to learn to surf, right? And the guy who's teaching him to surf is like totally a funny kind of stoner guy, and he just keeps telling him to do less, right? So he's on the board, and he jumps up, and he's like, good, but do less. Take that concept and put it into your games. If your game is fun at the very core of it, then everything else will come, right? If you can just have fun doing one thing in your game, the main thing, everything else can build off of that. Make sense? No, it doesn't make sense?
Oh, it does. It does.
Fun, what is this?
All
That
right.
makes sense. I just have to figure it out.
That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Remember, do less.
That's what's up.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, love to do less. Like, don't be afraid because all the artists in your programs put so much work into it, and you're afraid to delete some stuff or not use it. Don't be afraid. Say, hey, it's better to solve this now than later.
So everyone, I'm Javier Mendoza. I graduated from Dubai University 2 years ago. I don't recommend it because it's expensive. I went specifically because at the time I was a firefighter. I was a firefighter for 5 years. And my goal as a kid was I was going to be a firefighter, and my days off I was going to do the next big Tamagotchi. That's when I knew I was gonna do video games. At the time, I thought they were just toys. I didn't know they were video games. But I was gonna do toys on my days off, and I was gonna be a firefighter on my days on. So I went to school in Santa Ana College for the Fire Academy. Graduated on the 145th Basic Fire Academy. And our slogan was "Attitude was everything." So it was a long slogan. You had to yell it out every day. But it built up my lungs. So it was good. But now I'm a game programmer. I'm a software engineer is my title at Mind Research Institute. It's up here in Irvine by UCI. We make math games, so they teach kids math. Right now we go from K through 12, but our junior high and high school levels are just more of a test to see where kids are at. But feel free to check them out. They do math games. They're your local nonprofit that do amazing work. I'm one of the people that does amazing work there. I feel like I do others. And it's fun. You guys can contact me with that email. I also stream. I'm a game streamer. Love that stuff. I took this year to do a little bit of R&D. And hopefully next year I could run it a little bit more full time and run a couple of our games in this thing. So, enough about that. Career tips. I decided to do this because when I was a student, much like in firefighting, I didn't have any relatives or family members or friends that were into the industry, maybe because of where I grew up or whatever. We just games was fun, we played it, but the idea of developing it, some of our schools didn't even give us computers. So I was gonna build a talk on prototyping, but there's great talks already done about that at GDC and all these events, you can look them up online. So I thought, what was it that I wanted when I was a student? And it was how to find these tools to make prototypes. So a lot of people tell you, why should I make prototypes and not make big games? And they said it today, you should do less. But a lot of people just say, why not? And that's not a good answer. In reality, why you should make fast games, prototype games, is because as a student, a game developer, a person just in living life, you don't have a lot of time, and you need to learn as much as you can in less than 24 hours in a day. So what does fast prototyping do? It allows you to do less, but learn more with what you're doing. So there's a misconception about being a student. A lot of people say, being a student, you can categorize them into, you just have school, family, and job life. And that's all you have to worry about. And it's unfair because in reality, when you're a student, it's more of an internal struggle. You're thinking about, did I pick the right career? Can I afford the next semester? Will my classmates finish their part? What can I do with my degree? All these questions that you're wondering, and half of those don't have to do with the three categories that people are talking about. So, same thing goes with being a game developer. Personally speaking, me that I'm full-time, people categorize us into you're either a game designer, a programmer, an audio, or a graphics person. But that's not fair either. You shouldn't be categorizing this game development field. There's a lot more to it than those 4 careers. So I know most of the people here are 3D modelers, but in case you change your mind in the future that you don't want to be a 3D modeler no more, like I said, I stopped being a firefighter, so there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. I love being a firefighter, by the way. No diss on it. They're
That's
awesome. Cool. Check out this, right? This kind of looks like 3D modeling. There's 3D environment, animator, and this is kind of the stuff that we think of as video games, game development career. But check this one out, broadcasting. This is something new with esports, business development. They need to make money. Business intelligence, community development. I'll scroll down to the bottom because those are the weird ones that no one knows what they are. But events, finance, accounting, game design, general management, global insights. There's a huge, massive amount of things you can get into if you want to get into game development. Don't think that you just have to be an artist or a programmer or an audio person. Look at the list, and whatever ones you like usually means the type of person that you like to be and get into the gaming field. So back to the point, why rapid prototyping as a student? To learn as much as you can in as little time required as possible. So apply it to work. I still do this all the time. At work, when they ask me, Javier, can you build us the console that's gonna load all the games? I go home and I do projects on my own, on my time off. Nothing to do with work. I try to make an app that I like to do for myself. And then I go back to work and I tell them, oh yeah, I've used that technology before. Oh cool, what job did you do it in? And I tell them, no, I just built an app for myself. And that's the knowledge that they want to hear, that people that are hiring want to hear. Is, did you build this because work told you to build it, or did you build it because you just felt like building it one day? So, personal projects or work projects, it's perfectly fine to rapid prototype, and you should rapid prototype. Problem is, like I said, when I was a student, is where to begin. Sometimes you don't have an idea. Being a developer is just like being a writer. You can hit a writer's block. You might be there one day in front of the computer and say, I'm going to build an app, and you just stare at the screen and you say, I have no clue what to build. Same thing happens with this. So, some of the tools that I found useful was when I find that thing that I want to build, is I ask myself this. I start with a job that I would like. For me, it was programming. And then I say, what do I like about this job? Could be a game or anything. So ask yourself these 2 questions. Fill in the blanks. I like the either art, design, marketing, artificial intelligence, programming, coding, events that they threw, whatever it is. I like that blank in the, and then pick the game board game, cooking show, YouTube series. Don't limit it to just a video game, because if you limit yourself to just a game, you forget that there's an audience out there that likes everything else that's not video games. So it could be YouTube series, it could be a cook, whatever you like. Say, I like the marketing in that blank video game. And once you find out those 2 answers, hold on to those answers and put this in Google. Google now is amazing. When I can't believe I'm saying this. When I was growing up, internet couldn't answer you a question.
That internet machine.
The interweb, that you guys call.
Back when we had Ask Jeeves.
Yes. Ask
Ask
Jeeves was actually more popular than Google at the time. And you had to get fancy. You had to actually say game development, +sign, tutorial, and like do really fancy keywords together. But now you just
I
ask
still do that.
what tools did the marketing team use for Heroes of the Storm project? If you ask that for Google, it'll tell you what tools. There'll be journals about the pitfalls that they've reached. Some of the good documents are called postmortems. That'll tell you all the stuff that the team did well, but also all the stuff that the team did bad. So use this question. Fill in the blanks for the stuff that you want to find out. The stuff that spits out from Google search, there'll be a lot of tools. It'll tell you they use Unity, they use Maya, and they use all these 100 tools to build their games. Now you have to decide, well, what do I want to build with these tools? Because building that AAA game it goes against everything that we've been saying today, keep it small. So you can't make a big project. The only 2 options you have left now is either make a small project or a medium project. But if you choose the medium project, in order to do less, you have to cut the time of development. So either do a small project so you make sure the development time is small, or if you do a medium project, find a tool that cuts the time in half. So, when to keep a project small? If you answer yes to any of these questions, you should be doing a small project. Now, I might be missing a few questions, and some of these might have a middle space, and I just realized that one is cut off. The bottom. I don't think it exported well. It's fine. So, when to keep a project small? If you want to learn the tool that the team is using, that team that you said you wanted to research, if you want to learn exactly that tool, keep it small. Because if you keep it small, you learn the skills little by little as opposed to trying to learn 20 skills all at once. If you want to learn just one of these skills, like I said, I want to do what the pros are doing. It goes again with the previous 2. If you want to do exactly what the pros are doing, remember the pros have years of experience and years of using tools like this. So they know what to search for. If you've never used that tool before, you're still trying to learn the baby steps, the basics. So keep your project small so you learn the basics. If you're not comfortable with the tool, if you look at this tool and it looks like gibberish to you, start small, because that will slowly teach you the tool. If you need to know every detail about this tool or skill, if you have to be a person at work that writes a report about what is this tool capable of, and you have to tell them in detail a report, keep your project small and have each project focus on one particular skill for each one. So to summarize, when you use a small project, when you want to learn the tool that the pros are using, is a good indication that you need to do a small project, or when you need to learn the details of that project. When to do a medium-sized project, quickly. I'm trying to emphasize that quickly part, because that's what makes the rapid prototyping rapid. If you want to build the same thing that they did, but with a different tool. Now this is a gray area. I say building the same thing, so say they use Unity as a game engine to build the game, but you say, you know what, I plan on making more than $100,000 and I don't want to pay Unity back for that money. Good luck. Let's use another game engine. Let's find another game engine. So that game engine might not be popular. Do they have the same amount of tutorials that Unity does? Is their community big enough to help you in following these tutorials and get your game out? Think about that. If it's a huge engine but doesn't have a huge community, then you might be spending more time learning that new tool, and you might be better off doing it just a quick project with a big size. Are there tools like that one that they use? Same with goes with the same question from before. Is there an alternative? Do you just need to learn the basics? If you don't have to worry about learning the details of a game engine, you're allowed to skip certain steps. And so that's why I put that one there. If you just need to learn the basics and you don't need to learn details. If you don't have enough time, again, that quickly part helps out a lot. If you focus on saying, I'm just gonna finish this in I'm giving myself 1 week, but I want this massive project, think about how you can cut it in time. So in summary, medium projects, same project, but using other tools, learning the basics and not worrying about the details, or, I wish I could remember the third one, or not enough time. So, small project tips. I do videos and articles. That's what I recommend. And if you search for videos, when I was a student, I made sure all my videos were less than 20 minutes. I put 30 minutes there because YouTube now allows you. But back in the heyday, YouTube didn't let you do more than 10 minutes, and then they said you couldn't do more than 20. And I remember the first time they allowed 45 minutes. I was like, yes, all these ideas. And then everyone blew up. So. Videos, 10 to 30 minutes. Why? Because it cuts that half time that we're talking about. Don't spend more than an hour trying to research something that you don't know where you're going to take off. Learn that skill, and as you pick a skill, keep those videos short. They actually teach you a lot more when they're short because they're trying to condense it to the focus, and they don't get off the topic. Tutorials, I think of them the same way. The only difference is that you don't have a video. What you do is you say, is this tutorial broken down? I look for either short articles or articles that have a part 1 or part 2 in the title. That'll help you out. So that's just a quick summary. But how to use it? YouTube, if you use YouTube, you can use whatever you like, but I use YouTube, and I actually use the filter. There's a filter, I don't know if you guys notice it, it's pretty hidden. Filter and say less than 5 minutes, I think is one of them. And if you find one in 5 minutes, that's awesome, that's hard. But also don't forget to sort by date, put by the latest. Because if you use Unity, Unity's at 5.1. There's a lot of 4.1s, 3.1s, and things break in Unity all the time the minute you upgrade to something else. So always get the latest, and try to stick with that with anything you learn, so you're always getting the latest information. Same thing goes with tutorials, like I said earlier. When I search for tutorial, put the tool name. So once you found out that tool name that they use, Unity tutorial part 1, just put part 1. No matter what you do in the search, put part 1, and it'll find you articles where they focused on breaking it down for you. So put part 1, that's a key feature. And again, in Google search, there's a filter. So go ahead and use that filter to sort by the earliest release to get the latest information. Now, medium projects. This is kind of a gray area in alternative tools. But medium projects, we said, whenever you use a different tool, that's not the one that the pros use. Why? Because alternative tools are meant to mimic the tools that the pros use. Who uses Blender here? Blender?
It's been a while.
So I would kinda. You don't have to, but
We've been spoiled by Maya.
yes.
Really have.
See, one of the things I miss about being a student is that you get a lot of the software for free, right? You just download it and you're set. I went to school for programming. So what DeVry did was you were only allowed a certain software for free if you were part of that major. And so because I was game and simulations, which is computer science with focus in games, they only gave me like Visual Studios, which was cool. But when it came to making this class where we had to do a cinematic cut for like 5 minutes, they told us just use Maya, use the 30-day free trial. And I was like, 30 days, that's not enough. So I used these tools and I found Blender. That's when I found Blender. And then when I found Blender, I decided, you know what, I'm an engineer. Why not go to Cal State Long Beach and build a 3D printer? and I built a 3D printer, and I was like, hey, I learned how to use Blender, and I do all those things. So, what Blender did is they said, you know what, Maya is freaking amazing. 3ds Max, anyone use 3ds Max? They said, you know what, these tools are freaking amazing, but they're freaking expensive too. So people just started building it, and they said, we're gonna give this for free. So communities build it because they want something free or cheaper, but they also build it because they decide they can do something different and better. If you look at Blender to this day, every year they're releasing something amazing, whether it's the renderer, whether it's the game engine, which a lot of people don't know it has a game engine. It's not good, but it's there. They have a lot of tools that are amazing. And because people decided, let's make these animations using keyframes and bones, other game engines came out and said, you know what, we should add that too in our game engine. And that's how the world evolves, and you get a lot of amazing tools. So alternative two for projects can be small projects, but due to the learning curve, I put them in the medium-sized category because you have to learn a lot about it if they don't have much community. Blender, when it first came out, I literally had to like dig into files to find good tutorials. You guys are lucky. So again, search terms. I always use open source or alternative in my Google search. Like I was saying, Maya, I actually put in Maya open source. And that's how I found Blender. The other one I like to use a lot, I actually used it this morning to find out audio for our music. But use sites like alternative2.net. Anyone use that site before? Please use it, it's amazing. Alternative2.net. What it does is literally what the title says. It'll find the alternative to, and there's a search in a box, and you put the software that you're looking for. And you'll find free versions, Android versions, Mac, Windows. Sometimes Mac has it and Windows doesn't. This will help you find those tools that you need. The nice thing about this is when you find an open source project that's multi-platform, when you work in small teams, everyone can use the same tool. And when you get a new person into your team, you don't have to worry about licensing, or you know that it's compatible with all the operating systems out there. Alternatives can be small and medium projects, like I said. Depends on the learning curve. But if there's a large community that provides tutorials, then it becomes a small project. So go ahead. That Alternative2.net has a lot of likes, so you know which ones are the popular ones. So, again, with medium-sized projects, if you have a medium-sized project, you have to cut the time, or else it's hard to complete that in your task. You could give yourself the whole semester to build your idea, but finals are going to come up. You have a report due next month. You have a test you have to study for. And that's all going to cut back on your time. So if you can cut the time early on a medium-sized project, then that helps you out accomplish that before their semester is over. So the terms that I use to find a tool that will cut things in time in half is I use WYSIWYG. Does anyone know what WYSIWYG means? It's a funny word. It does. Don't look at it yet, guys. I'm kidding. WYSIWYG, pronounced WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That's what it stands for. It's actually a technical term, so don't make fun of me. It's I didn't come up with it. But if you put WYSIWYG, game engine WYSIWYG, 3D modeling WYSIWYG, if you start putting these tools, you'll actually get some really cool stuff to come out. A lot of the time, these tools, it's only created by like one person. If you go to GitHub, when you put WYSIWYG, there's one guy that decided, you know what, like, I want to make a website without having to code. And he just started a project on GitHub, and he opened it up for everyone to use. And now instead of coding your website, you just drag boxes and stuff. So that's what WYSIWYG is. It means you don't actually do the repetitive stuff. You just focus on the art or the music, whatever it is. One example I'll give you guys is, have you guys heard of Scratch? Scratch. It's meant for kids to teach them programming. Scratch was built by MIT. It's a drag and drop coding, so you actually do no coding whatsoever. It's just a block
And if it has a triangle sticking out, and another block has a like inverted inside,
It's like puzzle pieces.
puzzle pieces. If they work, if they connect together, that means it works. So it cuts the time in half in coding. You don't have to worry about syntax. Did you forget a bracket? All these things. It takes care of all that. And all you focus now is just loading the assets and simple programming, dragging and dropping. Me that I program all day.
He doesn't talk all day, but he
Your hands hurt. And so sometimes if I have something in mind, and I'm like, man, if I program this, it's gonna be like 100 lines of code, which is small. I'm like, man, I can just drag and drop it, and it saves my fingers from hurting all day, not all the day. So WYSIWYGs do that. They look at any tool that you're looking for, what's the repetitive task that we can accomplish, and they do that for you. So it cuts the time in half. If you want a cool, even cooler thing, put in HTML5 WYSIWYG on your search. And I say it's cool. You guys are probably like, this isn't that cool, but back in my day, we had to install everything on the computer. If you put HTML5 WYSIWYG, it runs off of your browser. You can have a Chromebook. You can actually have a game engine in your Chromebook, and everything will be saved on the cloud over there. Browser WYSIWYG is another one, but HTML5, I tend to find that you don't have to install anything on your computer. The nice thing about those is you open up another computer, and your games is synced for everyone. So, I'll give you one example, using the questions from the previous slides of what. So the question I asked myself for one of the games that I built was, what tools do pixel artists use in game development? Anyone here a pixel artist? No?
Charlie.
It's amazing art. But
Hated it.
you know, they say the hardest part, sorry, it's a little bit offside, but the hardest part about pixel art is thinking that you have more than 8-bit colors. Right now we have 1,000 colors to choose from, but back in the day, they were like, no, we only have a little bit. That's why it's only 8-bit pixel art. So they had to make the pictures with those colors, and now we have too many colors, so that's why it's so hard. Is it true? I don't know. I do funny art. So I answered that question. If you guys don't know what that question was, what do pixel artists What tools do pixel artists use in game dev? So, when I entered that into Google, I got these first two results. What tools do professional pixel artists use? Hey, same question as mine. And then the next one says, make pixel art. Here are the 10 best tools for developers. I love those. Reason being, that 10 number tells you they just did short articles on each one. And that's what I need when I'm looking for a rapid prototype. I need someone to tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly in 10 seconds or less. Because I don't have time to read a whole forum of people giving their own opinion, and it's an opinion forum. So what I do is I go to these 10 best, and I found one of my favorites, Pistol app, which I don't think it's here. Remember that HTML5 WYSIWYG I told you guys about?
Uh-huh.
This is amazing.
Oh yeah, my friend, she uses that.
Exactly. Pistol app, number 1. Right there. You open it.
It's pretty good.
Everything runs on your browser. I didn't install
Little
anything.
DeviantArt lawnmower.
So there, if you decide to export this into your game, you just go to export, you say export PNGs, and I want to export a sprite sheet. So, all in the browser, it's all saved in the cloud. If you want to share it with friends, you just have to create an account. And the animations happen on here. Open source, it's on GitHub, so if you want to work and contribute to them, more than welcome. But, I think that's awesome. Round of applause.
Yeah.
So winner was Pistol app, and it's open source. It allowed me to animate, which is what I needed for the game. and I can export the sprite sheets to add to my game. So that's why I chose that one, and it was all in that article that you saw in a paragraph too. So the best tips is things you can do now to help your chances in the game industry. So I'll talk to you guys how to look for tools in the prototyping. But again, why? Why do you want to learn these things? It's because when you apply into the gaming world, game development world, they're going to ask you, what have you done? What can you show us? There's two routes I guess you can take with game development. You can start your own company, which is what we're trying to do, and or you can join an existing one. Right? Both are perfectly fine. I enjoy my full-time job as a game programmer. It's stressful and all that stuff, but in the end, because we're making it for kids, I think that's what makes me enjoy it so much. But either way, if you're trying to join a team, you have to show them what you can do or what you've done. And that's when your portfolio comes into play. So my tips on portfolio, you should have a lot of short projects, what we talked about earlier, and your senior projects can be your major projects. So if you have a collection of short and mediums that you're doing with your fast prototype, perfect, you're knocking those out and you can show people when you're interviewing. And don't worry about doing major ones, because your senior projects, these that you do for your schools, are the major ones that you're already working on. So work on the small ones, because those major ones are just coming while you're in school. Do game jams or meetups. If you don't have Meetup on your phone, you guys know Meetup?
Yeah, I've used it before.
Grab it and just type in game dev, game meetups, and it'll show you all around your area of possible game meetups that you can do. For game jams, I recommend itch.io. Anyone heard of that? Itch.io.
Oh yeah, I use that to download games. It's also game competitions.
It's a lot, actually. It looks like it's just competitions, but that's only a part of it.
There's a lot of free games.
Exactly. If you're an artist and you do 2D art, you can sell your art here. And what you do when you sell it is people log in here, and every day there's a game jam going on somewhere. And if there's a programmer that says, I'm not an artist, but I would like to use someone's art, they can download your art here. And if you put it for sale, they'll buy it from you. If you put it for free, it'll happen just the same. But what you can do is say, let me go to game jams, which is /game jams.
Ribbit.
Oh, just jams. These are all the game jams going on right now. So today's November 4th. We have a self-care jam, fantasy console game jam, indie game maker jam, access jam, 1+1=3 jam, pro jam, random jam, game off. The list goes on, right? So these are the ones you could be building games right now.
There's more gyms in my grandma's kid.
Some of them, as you can see, are a whole week long or a month long. Some of them are 4 days long, things like that.
Wow.
But there's always a game jam going on. So if you want to do the short ones, just look for that Halloween jam, the 31st. You have 24 hours to make a game. Get with your buddy and say, hey, let's make a jam for a game for this jam. So that's what I recommend for your portfolio. Game jams and meetups. If you meet anyone important and you get their networking, put them in your LinkedIn. A lot of people forget LinkedIn is where the tech industry looks into a lot. I got hired through LinkedIn. I was literally, not that I didn't like my old job, but my old job was having financial issues. So I said, cool, I have to start looking for something else. And the Bay Area was the place that all the games studios were being created. Every day there was a new game studio. So I was applying through a search engine called Angel.co, which is a search engine for startups. So I looked for game development companies that were being created, and I was getting responses every week. Every week I was getting one interview, one phone interview. And the sucky thing was every time that they would interview me, they would say, wow, you sound awesome, you hike, you exercise, but then you're also a programmer and you do all these things. We wish we could have you on my team, but unfortunately you don't have enough Unity games. I had a lot of games, but I use GameMaker, I use Godot, I used Unity, Unreal. So I used a massive amounts, but they wanted more Unity projects because that was the big thing at that time. It still kind of is. So one day I'm at my job and I'm just thinking about like, where am I going to apply to next? And I just installed LinkedIn on my phone because my school required me to create a profile, and I like kind of updated it. And I get an alert on my phone that says, you have a new message. And it was this Mind Research Institute where I work at now. And they asked me, like, do you want to be in QA? And one of the recommendations a friend of mine told me, who's a developer, said make sure when you apply for a job, you tell them you want to be a developer and not a QA, if that's what you want to do. So I went there and I said, hey, I noticed you guys have a QA position open and that's what you guys are asking me to work in. But do I have the potential of becoming a software engineer after a few years? And the lady was like, oh, but you show in your resume on LinkedIn that you worked at IBM as a QA. You're not a QA person? And I was like, I am, but like I went there as an intern and now I want to do software engineering. So she's like, actually, you know what? Give me till tomorrow. We're opening up a position for a software engineer and you could apply for that. So I actually applied for both jobs because of LinkedIn. And they found me there. They used the search engine for LinkedIn and they just looked up, she said, education, community, and a QA. So IBM, I was a QA intern. My firefighter was under a community category. And education, my slogan on LinkedIn, I actually put my dream job would be making educational games for the rest of my life. So the education part came out of there, and they found me, and it was just like a match made in heaven.
Wow.
That's why I'm happy there, I guess. But so your portfolio. Portfolio includes your LinkedIn. On resumes, have multiple resumes. You're all 3D modelers, but if you remember that list from Blizzard, 3D modeling can do animations, rigging, environments. There's a long list. So have multiple resumes. I had one for game designer, because we learned game design in my school. I had one for game programming, where all my programming projects were there. And then I had technical artists, which was like I said, my art is pixel art that we use there. So there's a lot of resumes that I have. So make sure you make multiple resumes so every time you apply to a new job, you can use whatever it pertains to that job description. Look at the job description. Go online and actually click on the link, and there's a description down there. Whatever that description says, make your resume towards that one. It'll make it look a lot better. And if you don't have much job experience in the field, try a project list resume. Do you guys know what that is? Project list resume? Instead of writing like, I've done community service here, you say I've worked on this, so your senior project. I've also worked on this, a personal project, things like that, and you actually talk about the project and what you did in each one. Look that up if you have any questions, project list resume. But it's what the tech industry likes because it gives them talking points during your interview of what to talk about. On interviews, have multiple pitches for your projects in your portfolio. And what I mean by that is have a story for each one. If you're applying for a technical artist job, but you're talking about the same project, be able to switch it and say, oh, that was me trying to be a technical artist. And then for the next one, it's trying to be a game designer. You switch the story to make it fit to the game designer role, but you're still using the same project. Talk more about your job that you had in that project during your interview, even if that wasn't your role. Talk about how you helped out that role. So if you're applying for a game design job, but you were a programmer, talk about how you helped out the game designer. Because even though they say this guy might not be a game designer, he knows the struggles that a game designer had to go through, and he was able to help them solve it. Goes with the last bullet point of if your role doesn't tie well with that job description. Kind and friendly attitude. So on attitude, we talk about your portfolio, we talked about the interview, and now about the attitude. In the game development world, you'll encounter both extroverts and introverts. You guys know the difference between those two? Nothing bad. Human nature. Some of us like to be hermits, and some of us like to be outgoing. Some of us are in the middle. It's just the way we work as a society. But what shouldn't change, whether you're that or not, oh, you're one or the other, is don't stop being kind and friendly. Because when you go to these meetups to meet people, even though they might be still a student, 5-10 years from now, they might be the owner of a game studio, so they indie development company. And if they remember you being rude to them, then that's the image that they're going to carry around you. If they know other people in Blizzard or in a company that you want to work for, that might not be a good thing. But if you're kind to them, that's actually one of the best things they can do. I was a junior developer because I had no experience when I got hired, and they told me after that like that was one of the reasons why we hired you is because you weren't yelling at us when we were interviewing. So I got lucky the other interviews were yelling apparently. So you don't have to be social, just don't be rude. You never know who might be interviewing you in the future. And one way to get a good attitude is don't always try to be the leader of a project. Learn to give and take tasks as well. One of those things they told us when I was in the Fire Academy was a good leader doesn't forget how to be a follower. So carry that with you and it'll help you get a good attitude when you work with others. And this goes with attitude too, but I think it's so important. We've all mentioned it today. Don't stop learning. Always be learning. This goes with like your whole personality. When I was a firefighter, I felt like I wasn't learning anymore. So that year I said, I had to stop going to school my first year because the rookie year is hard. And I said, I'm not learning anything, and I felt it. I love science. Obviously, a lot of my coworkers don't like science. They were football guys. Nothing wrong with football guys. But literally, football season, I was like, guys, like, let's go build something outside in the station. And they're like, no, you know what, during lunchtime, let's just watch football. And I was like, oh, like, all right. That urge for science wasn't being fulfilled, but some of them were amazing, and they would actually help me out with some of the games that I was developing. But my first year, I wasn't learning much, I felt, besides firefighting. So that New Year's, I told myself that I was going to learn something. And New Year's came, and I went online. I started looking, and finally it hit me. My older sister wanted me to learn salsa dancing with her a long time ago when she was in college. And I was like, is there any place that teaches salsa? So I learned salsa. Now I'm a salsa master. And then the following year, I was like, shoot, am I going back to school this year or not? Like, being a firefighter and going to school was really hard. So I learned bachata. So if you guys want to learn bachata, I'll help you out with that too. And then the following year, I was like, no, this is a year I have to go back to school. I took almost 2 years off. I got to get my master's. But I met a girl that knew how to dance Dominican bachata, so I learned Dominican bachata. But I never stopped learning. It was the best fulfillment that I could have done for myself, being a firefighter and being away from science as much as this. Being a firefighter is blue collar work, but that white collar fulfillment, I couldn't get it. I didn't even have time to come home and play video games with anyone. So always be learning. Don't stop learning, and you'll have a good time in the game development field. So here's some of the tools that I have used. I'll leave it up so you guys can see, but these are mostly game engines because I'm a programmer. But if you want to expand your knowledge in game development, Go.engine is an open source engine, 2D and 3D. Unity is a good 3D. It does 2D as well, but their focus is on 3D. They're slowly switching to 2D. Unreal is a good first-person shooter game. So if you guys want to build a first-person shooter game, Unreal is the way to do it. HTML5 Quintus, I like this one. It's not a powerful HTML5, but I like it because the guy builds it every time he goes on vacation. He goes on vacation, he has a blog about what I worked on this vacation. Just a cool guy, sounds like. Pixie.js is what we use at work, and Easel.js. Easel.js is more like Flash, but when Google and Apple announced that they weren't going to support it, Easel came out to kind of, for those Flash developers, to something similar. Pixie.js is one of the faster 2D and 3D. They use WebGL. And then GameMaker. If you want to make really fast games, GameMaker is the one that you might want to look into. They've gone a long way from when I first started using it. So App Inventor. Remember that Scratch game engine I was telling you about? MIT said, you know what, can we do the same thing for making apps? So if you have any ideas for apps, App Inventor or Thunkable, they're the same engine. Just one was meant for hobbyists and teaching kids how to make apps, and Thunkable was made for people that actually want to make commercial apps. But super limited, but you can access Bluetooth, a lot of the phone features that these other engines make it difficult to do. Those are the tools I use. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys use your own tools to make your prototypes. Thank you.
We'll come up and take questions and talk about you guys a bit. So all you guys model and
Chase, you want to turn on the mic?
You just said any so light, it's burned.
tell me about what you guys do. You guys all model in Maya
Yeah.
for games, for movies. What are you guys focusing on?
Some of us here are making our student films. We all have to make at least a student film, and since some of us here are doing 3D, so it's like we've learned how to rig characters and build them and build environments and whatnot. For those of us who worked in games, we did a group project last year. I mostly worked on modeling like small assets, and then you did like the textures for them. Yeah. And for next semester, there's a few games. I wish is it Stephanie who
No, she's here.
no, but who's working on a game next semester?
Oh,
One of our officers is working on a
it's
game.
Natalia.
Oh, yeah. It's like it's kind of like Temple Run, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Someone's they're making a game for that. They want it to be for both PC and I think they want to do a mobile version as well. And I think they're using Unity for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So she asked me for some advice for Unity.
The cool thing about what you guys are doing is not only can you get into movies, but you can get on television and in games. Cinematics is a really huge part of it. So let's go one by one. I want to hear what you guys do.
Well, both of us are mentioned that.
Nice.
Well, so
Treasures.
I'm interested in learning how to do 3D. I've mainly just been kind of character design, I guess.
Nice.
I've been doing Inktober, so.
Yeah.
Although it became November because I got busy with school, but so that's how it is right now. Actually, I'm in the video game development club right now,
Nice.
and so they're working on a game, but like I feel like they haven't communicated as much, because I ended up becoming an officer, so like I'm like the lead artist in charge of the whole the position, I guess. But there's not enough communication with the leaders for the game. Like when I was you guys were talking about,
Communication is really big.
yeah, with mechanics or
There's a lot of tools out there.
yeah.
Google has documents where you're constantly chatting with each other. We use Discord, so not only can we show each other what we're working on presently, but so we can chat, we can talk. Communication is really big.
Yeah.
Take lead. Take the one who,
Yeah,
makes
because
sense.
we have meetings on Tuesday to discuss what we've done on Friday, but I don't think it's because we're accepting all ideas, and I think we're branching out too wide.
Yeah.
And I'm we should really cut down because this
Yeah.
we're supposed to have a tutorial done by the time it's Thanksgiving, and we really haven't enough coding hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Somebody needs to take leadership there.
yeah.
Now down.
your fingers.
Yeah, so I mean, this was really helpful to hear. That way I could probably talk to them during the next meeting or something and really address the issue.
One of the big things, guys, for you guys that it seems like all of you like to draw, and all of you are modeling. There's nothing more respectful than creating something, right? You draw something and then modeling that exact thing. If you can show companies you can do that, go ahead.
Just trying to learn everything.
Nice, everything.
Everything, but yeah.
That's awesome, man.
That goes big with what I was mentioning and keeping it small. If you want to learn, start with saying I want to learn everything, but I want to start learning programming. Then focus on tools that do programming.
Yeah.
Later do other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool to be a generalist, but it's hard. And a lot of companies don't want to generalize. Small companies like ours, we love that because you can wear many hats. But if you want to work in a big place, any big studio, they want somebody who's really good at one thing. And if you can do other things, that's just going to put you ahead of everybody else. But you have to be really good at one thing.
Is there any like field that you have more?
Like, you might want to like just grab your friend and say, hey,
You're freshman, though.
you're better than
Yeah,
me.
you're freshman.
Can I see
Yeah.
what you do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just gotta, like, take it, just try something and see if you can do it for 7 days straight.
Yeah, see what you actually enjoy more.
Yeah.
I've gone to GDC twice, and both times the students that come in, they'll say, I found out I liked rigging more when I started doing game jams. Because in the game jams, people are like, oh, I need someone to do this, and you're just like, all right, I'll do it. Because like I showed you, 1 week long, a weekend, you get a chance to practice these skills. Next week, or next game jam you do, say, I did that last game jam, I want to do something else. And you'll find out which one you like more.
Talk to people too. See what they like and then try it out.
I'm a character animator. Like 3D films is my first love, so I've been really wanting to become a character animator for that. However, like I started working on games earlier this year. I really liked it. I learned how to use Unity over the summer. I liked it. So I mean, I'm going to be continuing working on games even next year. So
Awesome.
if I get comfortable with games, that'd be great as well.
Yeah.
But as of lately, I've been mostly doing character animation and modeling assets. I really do like to model a lot.
Nice.
So that's kind of the two things I'm doing a lot of, just animation and modeling.
Animators are man, just you can work anywhere.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of tools out there now that will do mocap or give you preset animations. But the thing about these mocaps and preset animations are the details aren't in there. They still look really choppy, so they'll get an animator and they'll have they work on their fingers a lot, they work on their expression, they really clean things up. So animators are like, man, there's a lot of animators work.
Just be prepared to be overworked your first.
That's the thing. But if you love it, it's like I like chocolate ice cream. I never get tired of it.
If I can add anything though, sorry. I didn't mention in this talk because it's usually a talk that we do to high school students when they're still trying to figure out where they want to go. But if you find a purpose, you can apply anything to that purpose. I can't remember the book that I read when I was 25, but there was a book that I read that said, live life with the purpose and not with goals. Because the problem is when you live life with a goal and you achieve that goal, you have no more goals to reach. So what happened with me was I love helping people. So when I said I was going to be a firefighter, that was my motivation. Since I was young, I always said I was going to be a firefighter. I became a firefighter, and when I left, my purpose never changed. I still make education games because my purpose for myself is to help people. So you could be a firefighter, you could be a game programmer, and all those things that you do, an artist, you can apply it to your purpose. And when you apply it to your purpose, it's easy to find things to do. Yeah. And being a 3D modeler, you can make it for games, you can do, like he's saying, all these things. You can apply it to your purpose, or you could always apply it to the future. What's the future going to bring? 3D printing is going to be big, so if you're a 3D modeler,
I've done most of what I do is character design and occasionally like visual development type things, which is a fancy way of saying I draw pretty pictures in Photoshop.
Nice.
But I've
So you're looking to be a concept artist or a model or what's
that's it. That's most of what I really like doing. But I've also been learning more of the 3D aspect. I've been learning how to do lighting and composition, and I'm going to be learning more about modeling and the 3D stuff because a lot of my friends are into games, and I do have quite a few of them that learn how to develop, like Max, like worked on doing character designs to help him out. But I want to get to know that field better because I love games. I've played Warcraft 3 more times than I can even remember.
Now, don't feel like we're telling you guys like do games.
No,
you know?
yeah.
We just try to show you this, and now they're having to do what you can do.
No, yeah.
And games is broad, right? Like,
Yeah.
I started my own company this year, and we're making a card game.
Yeah.
I went to school for games, programming,
Yeah.
all this stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, card games, there's no programming. I should have done this a long time ago. So awesome. I love programming, but yeah.
But your skill will translate into so many things.
Oh,
yeah, which is awesome.
Which of Max's many games are you working on?
I'm working on. I've helped him out with developing a character for the Apothecary game, the kind of diner dash potion maker kind of thing. But he's also had me. He's talked to me a lot about Breath of Icarus a lot, and
I remember I'm talking about Breath of Icarus. He's been working on that since he was in the Philippines.
I think so, yeah. Was that the one where you was in the city and you had to clean the garbage?
that was a senior thesis game. Breath of Icarus is more like the Harvest Moon type of.
Okay.
No, I know which one.
All right.
Yeah, too many.
I'm sorry, I'm pointing at you guys. I don't know anything.
I'm Vicky. Hi. Currently, I'm a third year, so I'm still trying to figure out what I like. But I've become really interested in like texturing and modeling, things like that. I'm also a computer science minor, so I'm really interested in coding as well.
Nice.
And yeah, also I got into storytelling too. I like writing stories.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
you're gonna kill it. You can texture.
Yeah.
You're getting into programming and story. Yeah, you're gonna.
People forget, storytelling sometimes is what drives a video game. I did an essay when I was in school about what's the difference between a movie and a video game, and pretty much nothing except interaction.
Right.
Like that's the only difference. So yeah, you got the triple threat.
All entertainment is storytelling. So, like your art, when you guys are choosing to do something or choosing to work with somebody, you got to make sure that together you like, good storytelling. Whether it be, now that's based on opinion, but if you have great art and the story's awful, your art is going to start looking awful to people too. So make sure you match yourself with great storytellers. So that's awesome. Really, really cool.
I'm a modeler. I want to try to get into environment modeling.
Nice.
I also right now I'm doing a lot of animation. Like
Where are you modeling environments right now?
I'm sorry.
On Maya?
Yeah, I usually just use Maya, but I also do a lot of ZBrush.
Nice.
For,
So you're just building assets, or are you building landscapes with ZBrush?
well, for more organic shapes like trees, I like to do them in ZBrush because it's a lot easier to just kind of build it up really fast.
Yeah.
And just kind of.
Do you guys do a lot of retopology, or are you just putting in your full ZBrush models into Maya? And I know for movies it's different. You can use many birds.
Well, it honestly it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if my models are too dense, then I'll go and retopologize it.
Nice.
But if it's like for example, like we're on the same 12-hour animation talent team, so like the trees that I made for that film, they were pretty low poly.
Yeah.
So like just already in ZBrush, like after I ZBrushed everything, so that like I didn't need to retopologize it, so I just like kind of just export it as an OBJ and just use that.
Awesome. Yeah, and in the game world, your meshes are everything. Retopologizing is really the best thing. Is that you're learning Maya, and that has the best retopology tool. So we're just starting to use the retopology tool in 3ds Max, and it's cool because you have your dense figure, right? And you can you guys can tell me Maya, but you can basically draw the lines out yourself.
Well, yeah.
So it's the same thing in Maya, right?
Yeah, you just be like, drawing out the dots.
Right.
Is that what 3ds Max does as
So
well?
3ds Max, you're actually drawing the squares.
Yeah, the edges.
So, and what it does is so if this is my model, my very model. So I would draw a square here, and what it does, it almost like it magnets onto it.
Yes.
So it fits.
Yeah, mine does that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought that was a tool they took from Maya. first. I mean, it's the same company.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the old
What are they gonna combine the two?
In fact, I think that's part of the 3ds Max like toolbox that they added to Maya. Later on, it's like they take all the best stuff from 3ds Max and just add it in Maya so people could use it.
Yeah.
If I'm correct, yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I know there are things like what you were saying where you can look up to take tools from Maya and put it in Max.
Yeah, just like that alternative two thing. Look for Maya
Maya to
making
Max.
landscape, and you'll find a bunch of tools. I'm an open source guy, so Blender.
Yeah.
I consider myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you finish?
I-
No. Go ahead. You had a thought. Finish up.
Yeah, like mostly I'm trying to get into modeling for like
Nice.
environments, but also kind of dabble or want to dabble more into rigging. Because like for example, with like the film I'm making this semester, I have some assets for my environment that need movement. So like for example, I'm doing like a horror film.
Right.
So like there's like I have these trees that turn into like these zombie hands, and they need to move and like reach down on you. So
You know what? That's a really good thing that you are, because there's so many modelers and not enough riggers.
Yep.
that's what I hear.
You know, so if you learn to specialize in something that not a lot of people are doing, you're never gonna not have work.
I always picture riggers like that secret tool, that secret weapon.
Right.
Because all the modelers are building, and then all of a sudden the rigger walks into the room and was like, oh,
He's here. Right. It's a good choice to like learn to be an amazing rigger. You know, like we said earlier, find that one thing that you're niche at. You know, like that you're just amazingly awesome at. You know, and rigging is one that a lot of people do not go to. It should.
Yeah, it's just easier to learn rigging, at least for me, because like I just want like for my environments, I want to make stuff move.
Right.
And like a lot of what I make is more organic shapes rather than hard surface.
Right.
And I want like I need movement in that, so just like I don't want to ask someone, so I just do it
To do it,
myself.
yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. Great mentality too.
I consider myself a generalist in general.
Like you would be the worst date ever. Like, what do you want? Kind of everything.
Because I actually feel like I'm very passionate in creativity and anything, and I want to give life to things. So in terms, I like to learn about screenwriting. I like to learn about graphic design.
Awesome.
In the 3D world, I tend to like to focus on texturing and surfacing and lighting because I like to paint, but I don't feel like I can kind of grasp that in 2D, but I can grasp that better in 3D. So it's like sometimes I like to mix and match like what.
So you do have a focus within each realm, though.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly. Good. Like in 2D, I tend to like to focus on visual development. So and then I like to implement screenwriting in art as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, and I'm always open to learn more because you know as I got into 3D, I learned more that you need to know coding. That's something that a lot of big game companies now want 3D modelers to learn how to code, like, you know,
or have an understanding of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I'm always all about learning and getting more knowledge because the more you know, the better you are as an artist in general.
Right. That's awesome. That's a good mentality. But you do need to try to find the one thing you want to drive to.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll want to drive towards something. It's funny how life works, you know. You're going and you're sprinting to this, and you get there, and you end up using another skill that you were building instead of that one skill. So it's not bad to learn more things. Like we said, keep learning. Maybe tomorrow, you know, Javier's a professional bachata dancer.
Honestly, I haven't thought about it.
But the thing is, it's good to choose a focus just because it gives you a direction to run in. Does that make sense?
Very true. Yeah. Very, very true.
I'm strictly a 2D person.
Nice.
I only joined this club, just to explore something else, 3D, because literally have zero, almost zero skills. I only took one class, but that was a couple of years ago, and I pretty much like forgot much of it.
Well, let me tell you something before you keep knocking yourself.
But I was gonna get my focus.
Yeah, get your focus, get your focus, get your focus.
One thing that I think, I don't see that I'm good at yet, but it's what I want to improve on. It's like world building.
Nice.
So like for biz dev in 2D concept art, for instance, other than just character designs and coming up with a story, it's also like trying to establish the kind of world the story takes place in.
Absolutely.
And I'm very passionate about video games, and one thing that I like fantasy games in particular is because of how imaginative and how out of this world kind of thing I've seen. Because I'm not so interested in something that's like real life, replicated real life.
Right.
I'm not much into like GTA.
Right.
More into like say Final Fantasy.
Right.
How often are you concepting? Like during the.
I did like 2 semesters, like right now this semester is more like doing a hypothetical video game project, creating concepts for characters, backgrounds, and something else like that. Plots.
What you should definitely do, at least daily, because when it comes to being a concept artist, a lot of companies, they're looking more for quantity over like fine detail. So at least daily, do a new concept art, and it'll just make it broad strokes and just get the general shape and feel of the environment. Like,
For concept art,
yeah,
that
the
is-
mood and lighting, and because eventually you'll run out of ideas, especially when you're working like 8 hours trying to make different concepts. So you need to, on the daily, make something different so you have a fresh imagination as you're working on later.
And you know what's cool about 2D art? What I was going to tell you before is, a lot of like we're making an isometric game right now, and it's 2D. And it's so the cool thing about isometric is sometimes you're questioning whether it's 2D or 3D. You know, so 2D art. I think 2D art, my personal opinion, is the foundation of all game art, including 3D. You know, because even if you're doing 3D art, you're concepting in 2D, you're texturing in 2D, you know, and at the end of the day, that 3D art is going to look great, not just because of the model, but because of that 2D art that's on top of it. You know, so 2D art is, I'm glad that you're learning 3D stuff because you'll be able to work with other people easier. But 2D art is great.
And also, I think that's something that a lot of people forget, but there's a user interface that you have to work with. And that's all 2D. When you start adding 3D elements, even if you start using like the HoloLens or all these like virtual reality things, the UI is still a 2D UI that's displayed on a 3D object. So 2D will never go away, and don't ever feel like it's not worth pursuing. It's
Right. Right. We want to tell you guys about our game jam. So we are having a game jam tomorrow. We will be working from my restaurant with 5 other people. Whoever wants to come is welcome, or you guys can check it out online. If you want to join the game jam and try to make your own game, do it. So, at my restaurant, yeah. What? Can you guys write this down? Write down on. Does everybody here use Instagram?
Yeah.
Go to Mooney's John Art or John Mooney's Art. Is that? I don't even know my own Instagram. Tonight I'll be posting more information. So John Mooney's Art, JOHN Art. Tonight I'll be posting more information, and tomorrow I'll be posting what our theme is. All right. So Javier will be putting things on HIL. I'll be putting all the information where you can find it on the Instagram as well.
Great.
Okay. So John Mooney's Art, and everything will be on there. Okay. JOHNMUNIZART.
If you guys forget anything, just feel free. I have my email here.
No, JOHN.
Oh, great.
JOHN. That one. He's founded it. JOHN. I think you'll see. I did some Inktober stuff. There'll be like the Batman and the that. Yeah.
Nice.
Those.
Oh,
that's
thank you very
something
much.
you'll see.
Thank you so much.
So, if you guys want to even check it out to see how these jams work, and this is a really cool thing for you guys to do just to get the feel of what it's like to build a game.
Cool.
And if you guys ever have any questions or need any guidance, hit me up there, and if the question's directed to me, I'll answer it. If the question's directed to any of the other guys, I'll have them answer. Okay?
Awesome.
I just want to say thank you guys for
Oh, no
coming out,
worries.
and thank you for like providing us with so much all this information. Like it's so
no
useful.
worries.
It's, you know.
No worries. We're really excited that you guys are doing this. Yeah.
Also at the game jams, if you guys feel like, hey, I want to try something new, like I was mentioning to him earlier, you want to learn how to program,
Right.
we're all willing to teach you guys.
Yeah.
And
You don't
if you-
necessarily have to play your usual
Right.
role.
We're gonna have about 20 seats available at the restaurant. So if you guys want to come down, it's in San Juan Capistrano. I'll post it where it's at tonight. You guys can come down and even join and help out and check it out. You know.
Oh, definitely bring your own equipment if you can. We'll try to provide some extra stuff, but.
Right.
If you guys have a Twitch account or just know about Twitch, you can go there. I'm gonna try to stream most of the game jam there. So
Sweet.
it'll probably be kind of mellow throughout the day, but at nighttime when we do the judging, I'll be on the stream.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming.